These are going to be just the principles that you kind of go by. They're going to be the general rules that you have in place to put some parameters around like how you engage with the dating market. So, some of those guidelines might be um, the days that you're willing, like the days that you want to go out, um, the age range that you want to go out, like the age range of men that you entertain. What does it take to get you on a date? Where are you willing to go? And where are you not willing to go? So the guidelines are going to be heavily based off of just the general rules. Like I'm willing to go on this. Another guideline would be how soon are you willing to go out? So if someone invites you out, like, hey, do you want to meet up with me and my friends? One of your guidelines may be I don't do group dates, right? I only do a one-on-one date with a man that I don't know. Another guideline might be I don't do parties, I don't do happy hours. If you want to take me out, it has to be a one-on-one experience. I'm not going to meet you at your cousin and them house. I'm not going to meet you at a happy hour. I'm not going to meet you at a networking event. I'm not going to meet you at, you know, with you and your homeboys out to dinner and I'm just going to tag along. So those may be out like of the parameter of what is a date. So you really have to define what is a date. A date is a man who is courting me, who wants my time, attention, and affection, who is going to show me a good time. You have to define what the good time is, right? And so those are the guidelines, and it does help to write these things down. Okay. Especially if you find yourself being ghosted, if you find yourself with a 50-50 date, if you find yourself not knowing if it's a date or not, um, you definitely want to write these things down. Um, so what is it? What is it? What is the definition of a date to you? Where are you willing to go? What types of restaurants are you willing to go to? And it also helps to write down a bucket list. Look at your city, look at certain types of cuisines that you like, and make a bucket list of places that you would like to go. Um, you could do it by categories like all the French restaurants, all the Italian restaurants, all of the Americana, all the seafood, all of the steakhouses, whatever. Just make a list of about 20 restaurants that are of the caliber of the types of dates that you would like to go on and write them down. Um, think about even when you're looking at like Google or Open Table, how many dollar signs are on there? Like, you know, will you do a $2 sign? Are you only going to do the $3 sign? Are you only going to do the $4 sign? Would you be willing to do between 3 to 4? Those are all things that you kind of want to think about. Um, what might be outside of your guidelines when it comes to restaurants would be things like fast food, Chipotle, Chili's. It might be things where you order at the counter or a buffet. So you kind of want to like think about the things that will be outside of the guidelines, outside of the parameters of the types of dates that you're willing to accept. And also think about experiential dating. Um, you know, would you be willing to do golf or tennis lessons or horseback riding or scavenger hunts in the city, um, wine tastings, things like that? Think about the types of experiential dating that you would be willing to accept. Um, and does it need to go with something? So, for example, you might say, "Yeah, I will do a tour of the city if I go to brunch first to this type of restaurant, but I'm not going to just do this explore the city with you," right? You might also want to think about how much time are you willing to spend, especially when we're talking about the first one, two, or three dates. Because if you allow a man, he will monopolize your entire day. Like, oh, like if you ask them, what do you want to do? They'll be like, oh, let's have a drink and then let's walk around downtown. right? Let's go have some ice cream. Like, if you leave it open-ended like that, they will literally try to monopolize your entire day or your entire night, and they will try to do it for as cheap as possible. So, to nip that in the bud, you have to decide on the front end within your own self to know how much time are you willing to spend on a date, and what would it take to extend the time, you know what I mean? Like, you trying to extend the time to take me shopping? Are you trying to extend the time from take me to ice cream? Which one? And then from there, if A, then yes, if B, then no. You know, all of those are things that you have to determine when you are creating your guidelines. Now, travel is its own little separate, um, it's its own separate little category to be dealt with separately. You could definitely check the flute out videos that I've done. But when somebody wants you to travel somewhere or they want to travel to you, you need to have your guidelines around that as well. Where are you willing to go? How are you willing to travel? You know, are you gonna fly Spirit Airlines? You know, are you gonna be, taking the bus somewhere? You know, you have to really think about that. In order to get me out of my city, it would take the following things, and literally write that down. I need a comfort or business class ticket. I need a Uber Black from my hotel to the da 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 da. I need my money in cash. Write all of those things down. And it may seem like arbitrary or like, oh my gosh, nobody would ever do this for me. I've never had this before. But you would really and truly be surprised. And, one thing that I could tell you that I have learned over time is that, you know, men, for the most part, can pick up when you have self-respect, right? They can really pick up when it is what it is and it's not malleable. And so they can really take it or leave it at that point. And a lot of times when you're very clear about what you're willing to do, what you're not willing to do, what you expect, that garners a lot of respect from a man and from people in general when you're very crystal clear about what it is that you expect. So you would really be surprised. You're better off having these things predetermined, or at least having thought about it ahead of time before you're presented with these opportunities, because you need to know and get into the flow and get into the understanding that these kind of opportunities are absolutely going to come to you as you continue to level up. That is the whole point. That is the whole point of leveling up. What's the point of leveling up if you're going to be still doing dusty shit that you was doing when you was leveled down? That would make no sense, right? So obviously, as you level up, you're going to have more opportunities, and you're going to have more opportunities presented to you. So you should be ready. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready, right? Get ready now so that you'll be ready when they come. All right. And then let me just kind of back up a little bit even before um, we talk about like which dates and the travel and stuff like that. Let's talk a little bit about communication, right? Um, let's talk a little bit about communication. So you want to kind of have an idea of what are the guidelines of even engaging with you from the very beginning? Like kind of what kind of language is appropriate for you? Um, how, is can a, do you expect the guy to be positive and complimentary of you immediately? Um, those are things that you definitely want to consider, because those initial guidelines will eliminate a lot of heartache down the line if you just have those. Well, really, I would say they're probably standards. So, standards, the definition is a level of quality, right? An idea or thing that is used to measure the norm, um, a model in comparative evaluations. So, the standard may be that you require a man to be complimentary of you immediately. and not be fishing for compliments from you, but that he's already giving. See, I know that, and this is, and it's not arbitrary. It's really not. There is a rhyme to the reason, or there's reason to the rhyme. This is not arbitrary. I'm telling you from the very beginning, he should be giving you something immediately, and that is compliments. You know what I mean? Because the relationship is going to be him giving, okay, and you receiving. So it should be from that, from the very beginning. He should be complimentary and giving you compliments from the beginning, that you're beautiful, you're sophisticated, you look interesting, fascinating, gorgeous, your eyes are beautiful, I love your style, all of those kinds of things. And depending, it just depends on the situation and how much money he has. If he's like, "Oh, you look sexy," that's totally in the gray zone. That can go totally bad or it can be okay, just depending on the circumstances. But the other ones that I just mentioned are really in the safe zone of like really good compliments. But they should be giving those compliments from the beginning. It should all automatically be a I'm giving to you, not of like, hey, what do you like about my profile? Or what attracted you to me? Because what he's doing in that sense, if he's coming to you with that energy, is he's extracting from you. He's extracting validation from you. He's extracting, adulation from you. And he's not giving before he takes. A man should always be willing to give, 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 give and invest before he's able to take and to reap the harvest of what he has sown into fertile ground. You understand what I'm saying? So that's something to consider. Um, and then your guidelines about how you communicate. So one thing I can honestly see a lot of ladies doing that's really like kind of messing you up is like so much conversation before a date. It's so much conversation, so much texting and talking and texting and FaceTiming. And you're like, I'm not getting invited on dates. I don't know what's going on. Well, I mean, he already got to know you for free on FaceTime. So why is he going to invite you on a date? You know what I mean? So think about keeping communication short and sweet and um, sort of like leaving things on a cliffhanger, leaving things to be continued. Always trying to leave things to be continued. Always trying to leave things as like a open-ended and like, not him feeling a sense of completion. You never really want him to feel a sense of completion physically, mentally, anything, okay? Early on in the game before you have really been able to really extract as much as you can from the situation. So you want to think about how you're willing to engage, how much you're willing to engage, and by which mode and medium you're going to do it. So when a guy just messages you and he's like, "Oh, can I have your number? Let's text." Well, I would encourage you to think about that because if you give him your number right away, in the back of his head, he's going to be thinking, wow, that was really easy. I wonder what else I can get from her. And he may also be thinking, wow, that was really easy. She must give her number out to a lot of guys. So hold on to that number. Let him work to get it. Let him work to get your number. Let him prove himself a little bit um, to get your number. I mean, I can tell you a million stories where I've been so grateful and thankful that I have been prudent with withholding my number because the guy turned it out to be a total nutcase. Because a lot of nutcases, if you just give them a little bit of time, they'll show you that they're nutcases. So slow it down and just be like, if he just offers up his number, but like, oh, thanks so much. Like, if it's, I'd love to continue chatting on this app, for now. You always don't tell like, I don't want to give you my number because da da da, I don't feel comfortable with you, because that sounds very negative and bitter and jaded. So you can almost always say anything you want to say in a very flirty, positive way, in a very way that gives him hope. Hope is one of the most tantalizing, alluring, um, seductive things that you can use to your benefit to leverage what you want from the situation. You want to give him hope that the next thing is always going to be coming, right? Hope. Hope is key. Don't kill the hope. Keep the hope alive. Sorry to be cliche, but keep the hope alive. So you're going to be saying something like, yeah, definitely when we get to that point, right? Like, oh, sure, we'll definitely exchange numbers soon enough. In the meantime, I'd love to chat with you here, like until we get there, or something along those lines. You see, you'll have to find the language that works for you. Or you could say something like, well, I'd love to, exchange numbers in person is what I would prefer. Boom, there you go. No further explanation needed. Either he's going to invite you out on a date and actually see you in person, have an opportunity to impress you, and then ask for your number, or he's not and he's just a number collector. Maybe he's in a relationship and he's bored at work and he wants somebody to text with. Well, and he doesn't have any um he doesn't have any desire to meet anybody in person. You're going to automatically weed out a ton of people by simply having that requirement of, in order for me to give you my number, I have to see you in person. There's exceptions to the rules, but when we talk about guidelines, guidelines are the rules of engagement. There are exceptions to the rules, but you need to have rules to then be able to evaluate if an exception, if an exception is warranted. You know what I mean? You don't want to just build everything on exceptions and ad hoc and benefit of the doubt and I don't know, let me see. Create these guidelines to keep you focused on what it is that you want to do, also to keep you safe and to keep you experiencing the best that dating and living has to offer. Okay. Um, so where do I want to go now? Let's talk a little bit about requirements. Let's talk a little bit about requirements. Okay, so requirements. Requirements are going to be things like education. I mean, they're very hardcore. Things like education, um, you could even talk about family structure. Has he ever been married before? How long has he been divorced? If he is divorced, does he have any children? How many children does he have? All of those can be your requirements. You could say, I don't want to date with a man with any kids, or I only want to date a man with kids who are grown and out the house and out of college, or I only want to date a kid with I only want to date a man with kids that are girls because I have a girl, or I only want to date a man who lives in these particular zip codes or has this particular type of job. All of those are requirements that you can definitely create. You can start somewhere because depending on where you are on the journey, if like let's say that you're at the very beginning of all of this, your requirements today are going to probably be very different from your requirements 3 months from now or even 6 months from now. But you got to start somewhere. Start somewhere. I have a general requirement that helps me weed out dusty guys is a master's degree, master's or PhD, a JD or MD, advanced education. That weeds out a lot of dusty guys. Now, do I miss out on good guys with a bachelor's? I probably do, but I'm willing to do that for time's sake because I don't have time. Like, let's say there's a whole pool of like bachelor degree guys or like technical school guys. Maybe 1 out of 20 of them is, viable economically for me. 1 out of 20. But when I put my filter in for JD, MD, PhD, masters, well, probably about, 8 out of 20 are viable. So it's a numbers game for me because I don't have time. The exception to the rule is that the bachelor's guy or the technical school guy or the guy who never went to school has money. That is not the norm. So you kind of have to play around with that. You kind of have to play around with that. Also, for me, politically, I just go for conservative for various different reasons. I find that conservative men are much more, I do conservative and moderate because most moderate men are really conservative. That's what I've noticed. Um, Liberal guys are hardcore liberal and they're going to say I'm liberal or I'm leftist. But some guys who are conservative don't want to say they're conservative because of the Trump whole thing and all of that. So they'll say, oh, I'm moderate, but they're more conservative than anything else. So politically, I will filter for moderate and conservative. That's my requirement. I really don't deal with leftists. I don't really deal with um, liberal guys. Those are the guys that want you to pay for half your bill and, they want you to embrace feminism and pay your way and shit like that. And who has time for that? Ain't nobody got time for that. So political is going to be something you think about. Education is going to be something that you think about. Age range is going to be something that you think about. And you may notice that you might have to creep up, up, up until you get the treatment that you can get, the best treatment that you can get. Um, because a lot of women who are like playing in the Dust Bowl, they're like, oh, he's 5 years older than me. So, and it's like, well, yeah, he's 5 years older than you, but they're like 10 years delayed. So really, he's 5 years younger than you. And if he is 10 years older than you, then y'all are about the same age. You know what I mean? So you'll have to continue to creep up until you find the sweet spot. You know, you'll have to find the sweet spot of exactly like the way you want to be treated. If you find yourself constantly being mistreated or not handled with care, being treated like a bro, being treated like a homegirl or something like that, and just not being really catered to, then you'll have to start going up until you find the right age range for you. Okay. All right. So, age range, education, political leanings, where they live is one, what type of job they have or business. Now, with the business situation, like, okay, one of my guys now, he's the exception to the rule. He has a bachelor's, but he has a multi-million dollar company. Okay. And one thing I love about him, one thing I love about him, I was thinking this the other day when I was like, he got dressed for the day and he kind of looked like a bum. I mean, not like, he didn't really look like a bum, but he just looks kind of like a worker a little bit, you know what I mean? And I love it because these hoes out here don't know he's a millionaire, and I love that. I like the fact that he can fly under the radar and just look like a regular guy. Meanwhile, he has a lot of money. So he is definitely the exception to the rule. He cleans up okay though. He cleans up pretty good. But I just love the fact that his every day to day, when he like goes to work in his company, he looks super low key. But that's totally a sidebar. You want to think about that. So when we're talking about business, if someone's like, I'm self-employed, that's typically going to be a red flag. Like self-employed, that could be like a freelancer, that could be somebody that's like a consultant, or somebody that has like little gigs here and there. That's not a big business. You want somebody that like runs a payroll with like employees and the HR department and like a real viable business, not like a self-employed. That's just like a job. You know what I mean? So think about that. And then also when it comes to the types of jobs that they have, you can kind of get an idea and look up the the salary range of some of these jobs and just make sure that the type of dating that you want to do, that the person is going to be able to easily do it because that's a part of their everyday lifestyle. Um, so yeah, so there's that. Requirements. What are the requirements? Well, time frame, we've kind of talked about that a little bit. Um, like, do you accept last minute dates? And if you did, like, let's just say I don't accept last minute dates, period. But if I did, it would have to be let's fly first class to France or something. Then I'll do it last minute. But if it ain't first class to France, I ain't going. I'm not meeting you out. So think about the rule before you get to the exceptions. I need at least 3 days notice um, before I can accept a date. And also, a requirement should be that the person actually asks you on a date. So if someone's like, "Hey, you're a really cool person. We should meet up." Be like, "Oh, meet up. Are you asking me out on a date?" Now, I've had different responses to this over the years. If a guy is just playing around, he's going to be like, "Oh my, you're too formal. You're too formal for me." And do you know what I do? I block. Because if me giving you the indication that I need for you to confirm whether this is a date or not is too formal for you, I can already tell you you're not even cut out for me because you're going to be opening my doors, pulling out my chair, standing up when I walk to the table, holding my like you're going to be doing all the formal things. So if this initial thing is too formal for you, I already know you are not cut out for this job. You need not apply, sir. You need not apply. So have to make it a requirement that you and him both know that it's a date. It's not that we're meeting up. It's not I'll see you out if I see you, or oh, come through to this happy hour that I'm going to be at. Just come by. I'd like to see you. Like, no, like, listen, leveled up women do not allow themselves to be screened. Okay? That's not something that we do because, you know, we put out lots of filter free pictures that show our full body and our face. And so it is what it is. So you like it, you want to take me out. We talk a couple of times. We chat a little bit. You want to take me out, you take me out. But I'm not like, "Oh, well, meet me for a drink and then maybe we'll go to dinner." I'm not doing that. That's a requirement. Either it's a date or it's not a date. Now, a good transition from, "Oh, would you like to meet for a drink?" A good transition from that is brunch or lunch. Brunch or lunch. It's faster than dinner, it's cheaper than dinner, but it's more than a lunch. Pardon me, it's more than a drink. So, if they're not willing to take you out to lunch, they're probably not a good candidate. Because really, if they're really into you, they should want to do anything they should want to do whatever within their means to make you happy and to impress you. I mean, they should be trying to impress you. If they're not trying to impress you, they don't like you. You are probably, they're probably would be trying to use you as a place filler or, you know, boredom or just see how far they can get, see if they can have a different experience, see if, if they can, you know, get between your legs and stuff like that. But that doesn't mean that they like you. If they're willing to spend money on you and try to impress you, they like you, usually. So those are definitely some requirements to think. What type of guy are you willing to date with all those different categories that I just named off so that you have an idea? And I'll tell you this with your level up journey. As you level up, that is probably going to go up. Like you might be willing to, deal with let's say like a senior engineer or a sales executive or whatever right now. But then after you invest a bunch of money in yourself, and your wig is nice and you got your skin where you want it to be, you got your teeth done, you probably be like, well, I can get better than the sales executive now. I can get, the CFO now. So I'm just saying that you're going to start somewhere, but as you level up, you're probably going to level up your requirements as well. And as you start to experience things, you're going to have this feeling of been there, done that, been there, done that. Like, in order to impress a woman who's been to all the steakhouses, you have to come with the you have to come with the extra. One of the guys I was talking to the other day, he was like, we have this like private jet company here, and it's fairly affordable actually. It's just a little bit more than first class, and they fly to several places direct. He was like, "Yeah, we should fly that company to da 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 city and have a little mini vacation." And I'm like, "Yeah, that would be great. That would be really fun. I'm down for that." So, once you've been flued out, da 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 da, and you're like, all right, been there, done that. Well, the next step is the private plane, right? It's the private plane that's the next step, where you drive right up to the plane and get on there with your stuff, and you don't like stand in line and all of that. So I just say all that to say that as you level up, it will change, but you have to start somewhere. You have to start somewhere. And you have to explore what it is that you like. You have to explore what it is that you like. And you will kind of discover what you like, what you don't like, and where you have the biggest impact or where you have the greatest response. So that way you can kind of target your energy. If you know, okay, I do well with this demographic, then you know that you can put your energy towards that, especially if your time and energy is limited because maybe you're in school or you have a full-time job, you have all these other things going on. You have to be strategic with your time and energy so that you're not squandering precious time in a place that is not going to be viable, that's not going to, reap any benefits for you. Um, so with that said, you could think about also like racial demographics or ethnicities or religious groups that you're willing to date or not willing to date. Um, yeah, that's definitely something to take into consideration. You can most certainly exclude certain groups. Lord knows I have excluded certain groups that I just don't deal with anymore. So that is to your discretion. Um, you will have to find, the demographic that you do best with and that you get the best experience from. I'm trying to think of any other requirements that you should consider. Well, that's the initial dating, but you also want to think about what is required for your, like, how much communication or like how much access does one have to you, based off of how much they have invested into you. That's something really important to consider. Just because someone's calling you and like being very needy of your time and attention doesn't mean that you have to give it to them, especially if they've done the least. Like, okay, they took you out on a couple of dates, and that doesn't mean you need to text them all day. That doesn't mean that you need to answer the phone every time they call. That doesn't mean that you need to, allow them to monopolize every single one of your weekends all weekend long. You have to think about your time and you have to really kind of value it. And any man who's taking up your time is taking an opportunity from you to be earning money somewhere else or being with another man with more money. So any man that is re- requesting time from you should be bringing a lot of value to you. You know what I mean? So that it makes sense. Otherwise, you kind of give the attention and the time based off the investment that has been made. So I'll give you a little example of that. Uh, the real estate guy that I'm talking to, it's been touch and go because he, hasn't really dated in a long time. So he doesn't really understand, or perhaps he was pretending not to understand what he all needs to do in addition to dates and things like that, which are fine, but there are other things that are expected of you as a man. And for Valentine's Day, I was like, I don't know. I felt like I got a very sort of like junior high school gift that at his big grown age is just quite underwhelming. So and he's just been like texting all weekend, and I've just kind of been like, meh. I don't really feel all that obligated to respond, or I don't really feel motivated to respond to all these messages because that's like, it's not like girlfriend behavior, but it's kind of creeping towards that. And I did not receive a girlfriend gift, you know what I mean? So I it's just not adding up. It's not congruent, the gift with the level of interaction and correspondence that you are wanting. So, those are the kinds of things that I have to really think about. So, thinking about how much time is warranted for each, like for the levels of like where they are. This helps you slow down. Okay. This helps you keep things nice and paced so that you're not rushing into anything and that you're not sort of like bonding with someone prematurely, bonding with someone who doesn't really value or doesn't really care about you. So that's why you want to really pace it out and make sure that you are giving the energy that they have invested into you. So they give, they give, they give, they give, and they give, and they invest, and then you give them something back, right? So then whatever has been invested is able to come to fruition, whatever that is. Maybe it's a date, maybe it's a hug, maybe it's holding their hand or sending them a sweet text message. The sweet text message that will light up their day, or the ego stroking that will light up their day and make them feel like $1,000,000, even the showing up with you on their arms, you have to understand, especially when you're dating someone older, you make them look like the big dude on campus. You make them look like they got money, obviously, because they're with you. And you wouldn't be sitting there if there was no money involved. And everybody knows that. And they know that too. They know that too. Having you around just automatically validates them and makes them feel good. Just your presence. You don't have to really do anything extra. All you need to do is show up and be fabulous. That's really your main contribution to everything. Show up and be fabulous. Be your fabulous self. That's that's your main contribution to any of it. But everything that they have to earn, everything that they get. Nothing is given unconditionally. Everything is earned. Your time, your attention, your affection, it is earned. So nobody just shows up like, oh, well, I'm here, I'm male, therefore you are going to worship me and you're going to, you know, prostrate yourself on the floor, in my honor, and you're going to, give me all of your time, and you're going to text me all day, all night, and I'm going to hold you on the phone all night. I'm going to monopolize all your time. Like, no, all of those things are earned, and even still there are, boundaries and sort of buffers around all of that, because you still need to maintain mystique. You still need to maintain mystery. You'll still need to maintain a sense of yourself. You still need to create some time to miss you, right? And to wonder about you and to think about you. So all of those things are in your control. Um, and you get to decide how you invest all of those things. And understanding, like, if you're coming in late, I shared a bunch of assumptions at the beginning of this video. One of which was, I assume that you know your value, and I'm assuming that you know the premium on your attention. And I'm assuming that you have identified your intrinsic values. And I'm assuming that you know how to play up your most coveted attributes. I'm assuming those things when I'm going into all these guidelines and requirements and standards. I'm assuming that all that's been taken care of, and that you know who you are, you know what you know where you're going, you know you're beautiful, you know you're valuable, you know all of these things. So you can go back and listen to that. So if there's any area that I just mentioned that there's some weakness, or there is some shakiness, or there is some, you know, lack of confidence in any of those areas, you have to fortify them. You have to fortify those areas so that you can implement these requirements, guidelines, and standards more smoothly and more confidently, and really stick to what it is that you're creating. The whole point of all of this is to experience more out of life. And part of the privilege of being a woman is that a lot of these experiences you shouldn't have to pay for. Call it what you like, but it is what it is. We pay for a lot of things in other ways, but being a woman, you should be afforded comfort and luxury and good treatment and protection and provisions simply because you are a high quality woman. And that is it, that is all. And so, with your womanhood, leveraging that into better experiences in life. Now, where it goes from there, the sky is the limit. But regardless of where it goes, you have to start somewhere. And dating, meeting someone, starting the conversation, getting the conversation started on the right foot, getting the energy where it needs to be from the very beginning, it's all within your hands. It's all within your realm of control. Because ultimately, there's a lot of things that are sort of like in your sphere of influence, um, with the guidelines, and these are the things that are going to keep you feeling comfortable and safe in your dating experience. These are the things that are going to keep you safe. Um, like not giving out your address. That just could be a requirement. Meeting someone somewhere. Um, like I said, withholding your number for a longer amount of time. Not going on coffee dates, requiring, a proper date, requiring to be asked out on a proper date. Um, all of that helps. So I think one of the reasons why I procrastinated on on this video for as long as I have, partially because I keep getting sleepy. Like last night, I was going to go live and I got so sleepy, I just fell asleep. Um, and my main guy, he's trying so hard to get back into my good graces over the past couple of weeks. He's been like texting me throughout the day, and he texted me yesterday evening, and I totally fell asleep, and I wanted to go live. I was even sleepy tonight, but I was like, I will not go another day without doing it. So that's part of it. And then another part is that my mind is so disorganized. Like you saw how it's like ping, 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 ping. It's all over the place because it's so hard for me to organize the thoughts around all of this stuff because it's for me. So much of it is so it's just like interwoven, and it's not like a linear, this, then this, then that, then that, then that, then that, then this. It's like it's so nuanced. It's hard for me to really get it in a succinct, like bullet point presentation type of a way. So I figured, you know what? Let me just do it imperfectly. Let me just do an imperfect video that's all over the place, but hopefully, even though it has been all over the place, hopefully there still has been something that has been useful within all of the conversation. And then I also figured that, well, I'm pretty sure things can just flow. And if people have specific questions about um, creating these guidelines, then that will help me. you know, that will help me a lot if you have specific questions about guidelines, about standards or requirements. That will kind of help me hone in on exactly where you are, because if it's a question that you have, it's probably a question that another woman has as well. And so that will just help the collective of all of us, um, if I can address people's specific concerns. So yeah, definitely let me know if you have any questions. You could type it in the chat box. While y'all think about your questions, I'll give you a little update on my Valentine's. So I told you about the real estate guy, but my main guy, he got me everything I asked for Valentine's Day. He got me everything I asked for, so I was happy. We went out to dinner. It was kind of last minute, so I wasn't crazy about the restaurant. Um, it was like we just took what we could get. Um, we reconnected maybe what, the end of January. So we really didn't have very much time to get a good reservation. Um, yeah. So we just went to, well, I called Amex Concierge, and they booked a reservation somewhere. And I don't know. They had a preset menu, but they were so flustered. I don't know why. I couldn't tell you why. It wasn't super packed. So I don't know why they were so flustered. I have no idea. Okay, hey, Selfish Love. She says, since you are dating older, do those men want more children? Most of them don't, Selfish Love. Most of them do not want more children. So I think that's something I talked about in my last, I don't know if I talked about it in my last live, or I don't remember which one, but many of these men do not want children. They don't want, either they don't have them and they never wanted them, and they don't have children and they never wanted children and they don't want children, or they have children and their children are grown or almost grown and out the house, and they do not want more children. So if thinking about children, you have to go as old as you can who they want children, if you want children. But it also depends, like, are you dating to like experience a bunch of things, or are you dating because you want to find somebody to have kids with? So, um, if you're dating specifically for that, you might date less. You might go on less dates if you're focused on just that. Than if you're like, I just want to have a great time and do a bunch of things and go shopping and go on trips and stuff like that. You'll probably go on more dates, but those, guys have like a timeline usually. Like they don't last forever. Um, and you get to experience a bunch of stuff. Yeah, most of the older guys don't want children. Not all, there are exceptions, but I would just say in general, they don't want more children. And some of them don't even want to be married again. If they've come out of a really long marriage, they don't want to be married. Or they initially don't want to be married. Maybe down the line they will, but that's a gamble that as women that a woman would have to take. And sometimes you may not want to gamble like that. Like, oh, well, I'll be with this guy for 5 years, even though he's saying he doesn't want to be married now. Maybe down the line he'll change his mind. It's like, that's something that you have to evaluate. Like, do I want to gamble on this guy? He's explicitly telling me, I don't ever want to be married again. I was married for 25 years and I don't want to get married again. Sometimes you just have to take them for their word. Maybe indeed they don't want to be married again. So I'll just take them for their word. What is the max age I date? Girl, I don't have a max. I do not have a max. I don't have a max on age or money. Okay. Now, the older you are, you better have a lot of money. I'm not going to date someone who's 72. You know, listen, if you're 72, you better be like a multimillionaire. And I certainly will go out with a 72-year-old. I don't care. I'll wheel somebody in a wheelchair into a restaurant. I don't care. How much money do you have? So I don't have an age limit. I just have a limit on how you can't be broke. Okay. You cannot be broke and you cannot be stingy because being rich and stingy is the same as being broke. I would say my sweet spot is like mid 50s, but I don't have a limit on how old I'm willing to go. Absolutely not. This next chapter of my life will settle down with or without kids. It's to settle down with or without kids. Okay. Well, I mean, if you're open to having kids or not having kids, then you have so many options because there's a lot of older men who do not want any more children. I have one filter set up for a certain age demographic that do want children or who will say that they want children or that they are open to children. And I might see, maybe like 5 options a day. Then if I put any like okay, if I say okay, casual doesn't matter what their kids or don't want kids or whatever. If I just leave that open, it will be like, I don't know, 20 or 30 options a day. But if I put the wants children or open to children filter on, I might see 5. But I mean, that's very targeted. It's super, super, super targeted. Because you're targeting for political demographics, age, family plans. So, being targeted with what you want is perfectly fine. You're just going to be dealing with less choices, but the choices that you are dealing with are more in alignment with what you want. So, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Yes, girl. She said where that ramp at for that wheelchair. Yep, wheel them on in there. But you need to be wheeling their ass through Neiman Marcus too, okay? Picking out stuff. And picking out stuff, okay? Yeah, ain't no shame in my game, girl. I don't know how these girls be trying to shame us and they be with these dusty dudes, you know, with not a pot to piss in nor a window to throw it out of. And he's ripped and he's got the uh he's got the six packs and also he got a felony and child support. Girl can't take you out nowhere. He need to borrow money from you. He and his cousin car it broke down. He need you to call your AAA because he ain't got no money. He needs you to Venmo him. He'll pay you back next week. And these girls have no shame. No shame. None. But then want to try to shame you for dating an older affluent man. Like, ma'am, have a seat. To each their own. I'm gonna let you live in Dustville, you know, alone, happily ever after. Leave me and my Bengay alone, okay? Leave me and my Bengay alone. And what's that other stuff? That Tiger Rub, whatever it is they be using, girl. be getting AARP, uh, what you call them, AARP magazines to the house and stuff. Yeah, that's when they really appreciate you, though. Okay, that's when they really appreciate you because they know you are beautiful and you could be with any man you want, and you choosing to be with them. That's a different kind of treatment. But, I have a video on the channel that's about I think it was like, what did I title the video? Something like learning how to stop prioritizing looks or something along those lines. You you have to start getting treated really well in order to really value it. And once you get treated really, really, really well, like a step below worship, like really pedestalized and cherished, like really cherished and catered to, your attraction changes. It really does. And you really start to see attractive men as pieces of art, like artwork, but you're not interested in them. You're like, "Oh, you have eyes, you're not blind. You can see like, oh, that's an attractive man. I see he's attractive." But you're not attracted to him because you know it's just going to be chaos, confusion, broke dust, him taking more time to get ready than you, him trying to outshine you, you know what I'm saying, competing with you, trying to be the baddest bitch, he trying to compete with you to be the baddest bitch. You just become totally turned off to that. Like, you're like, "Oh, that looks like he looks like a baddie." And it's like, are you really attracted to a baddie? Are you attracted to a baggie? Okay, are you attracted to a bag or a baddie? And once you really start to get treated well, your attraction changes. It really, really does. It really changes. So, um, yeah. I was okay, so I don't know if y'all have seen those groups that they have in different cities. I joined one of them. The Are We Dating the Same Guy? Child, that is a treasure trove of pick me. Oh my God. It's just wow. I mean, all I can just tell you is to just join them. Just the shenanigans that they have going on. Just the shenanigans that they have going on is it's now I'll say for the BMs who get with the Beckys, I mean, these Beckys have some terrible, horrible, no good, very bad horror stories. I mean, they're sending these Tyrones cash apps and they're getting scammed. They're getting STDs. They're getting hit upside their head. They're getting lied to. They're getting threatened. I mean, it is a cluster F. And I can honestly say, like, the majority of the BMs that are like the worst are actually with the Beckys, or at least in my city. At least in my cities. And I don't know if it's the black women just don't put their business out there like that, or I don't know. But these BMs are putting these girls through the ringer. I mean, these are like really trash. I mean, it's just the pick meism. It's just a mess. And once you go on there and you see how women carry themselves, you understand why we put such a premium on our time and on our attention. You understand because we are really in a league of our own. Those are the masses. The these women putting up with all kinds of bull stuff, um, having low standards, you know, just accepting anything. One girl, one older, I mean, one white lady said that she went on a date and I think he had told her to pay her half or something like that. Like he wanted to screen her and she happily did it. And she didn't see anything wrong with it. She went somewhere so he could screen her, and she paid for paid for her own tab. And so, you know, I say all that to say that, you know, we are in a league of our own. We are definitely in our league of our own because the masses are on a different type of time. And those are the women who get taken advantage of, they get put through the ringer, they get just horrible stuff. And like they're coming on here with these horror stories, but the sad part is like it's not like I had a bad date. It's like I was with this guy for 2 years and he did this, that, and the third. And I'm like, wow, you know, you got one time to call me out my name, and I mean, I'm out. I'm out. Like, whether it be my main guy or any other guy that I've dealt with that I've become irritated with them, or we've taken a break from one another, whatever the case may be. It's most certainly not anything violent or anything they're calling me out of my name. It may be like, oh, I didn't get as much money as I wanted, or I didn't get this that I wanted, or um whatever they felt like. It's always something, manageable. It's never anything like devastating. The days of having that ratchet back and forth are so far in the past because I would just never even engage with anybody that would even think about handling me any type of way. Like, it just would never happen. Even with main guy, we've never had a bad argument ever. Maybe we have not agreed on something, but we've never had a bad argument. Never called me out of my name. It will never happen in this lifetime or the next or the next. It would never happen. Any of the men that I deal with would never call me out of my name or treat me some type of way. Maybe like they won't do what I want them to do. Like, I want you to take me out of town, or I want you to, I want this, I want that. Maybe they don't meet up to the things I want, but as far as handling me any type of way, that will never happen. So when you go into these groups and you see these ladies being treated any type of way, it's crazy. And the one of the things that really, it's in alignment with Black women's, you know, bad habits. I'm gonna call them bad habits. I've seen stuff like, "Ooh, girl, he's so fine. I'm gonna take my IUD out for him." Or, "Ooh," and it's just like, "You gonna take your IUD out to be a single mom?" I don't understand. Like, this shit has to stop. He's an attractive bandit, but you're gonna be by yourself, though, raising this kid. It's not fun. And and these are women who would otherwise seem to be intelligent, seem to have a decent job, seem to be taking care of themselves okay. But to have that mentality is, it's just not, it's just not wise. And I do see that a lot. The lusting after the looks, the lusting after the looks, and even lusting after it's the looks in and of itself is very masculine. It's very masculine trait. And within that masculinity, you're going to have a lot of accountability and a lot of responsibility on your own because the guy is not viable candidate to be trying to take your IUD out. Okay. Excuse me. I'm just quiet. I mind my business. I don't chime in. I don't offer any unsolicited advice to these ladies because I know they're going to do what they want to do. I started talking to a lawyer specializing in corporate mergers. He is in South Africa. relocated from Canada. He looks good, masters and all, but how do I move to a date without sounding desperate? Girl, how long have you been talking to him? Because a lot of times these out of town guys, they try to monopolize your time and they're in a relationship with someone there local. And so sometimes they carry on talking to you because they're bored. So how long have you been talking to him? That would be my question. And are you talking to him on the phone? Are y'all texting? Are you on the app? Is he in your city? I have so many questions. But in general, it's not about sounding desperate, like, oh, I'm desperate for a date. It's about requirements. Like, in other words, you have to have this attitude like, I don't know you. And I don't know that I want to invest emotional labor into you until you impress me. You have to have that cocky attitude. Like, who are you? What do you have? What are you offering to me before I start engaging with you on a daily basis? And so that is not desperation, that is a requirement. There's a big difference. That's a requirement. That is saying, I need to see who you are and I need to know what are you offering me before I engage with you on a like on a day-to-day basis as far as ongoing communication. And the way for me to know that is to see you in person. So that is not being desperate for a date. That is having a requirement for communication. I need to see who you are. I need to, see what it is that you're offering. What are you all about? Now, if he's interested, he's going to ask you out on a date and you're not going to have to strong arm him or anything like that. You're not going to have to force the issue. He's going to see, like, oh, I need to see this woman before she continues talking to me. I really liked talking to her. I'm really intrigued. I think she's beautiful. So I have to make a date happen. Rather that's fly into your city. I've had guys fly here. I've had guys fly me to them. I've had guys fly here or we meet in a specific destination. But what I'm saying is that when a man wants to get to know you, you know, mountains, rivers, valleys, and oceans will not stand in his way. He will make it happen. He will make it happen. How do you deal with men? How do you deal with men who require, but their good looks cause women to act up when they are together? I usually do nothing and he respectfully ignores them, but it's annoying. Oh, how do you deal with men but their good looks cause women to act up when they're out together? Well, if women are acting up with him, I would say that sounds like a ratchet environment. You know, women of a certain caliber are not going to be interested in flirting with somebody's date. You know what I mean? Even if you go to a really nice restaurant and you have a server, I've never had a woman server be inappropriate with any guy that I like that I've been on a date with or even notice it, or at least I haven't noticed it. So I would say that if women are being inappropriate, the environment might be ratchet, and I would say level up your environment. Go to an environment where women care about their reputation, where women care about how they carry themselves, because there's a such thing as dusty females too. What has been your experience with Jewish men? They are horn dogs, and a lot of times in my experience, I have not had a good experience with them. Um, I have noticed that they're horn dogs and they're very cheap. So I think that they spend more money like once they're in a relationship, But I think sometimes they kind of categorize certain women, and sometimes they put like, "Oh, well, this woman is for fun, so I don't wanna spend any money on her," even if they have it. And also, like, maybe it's regional as well, and so maybe I'm just speaking to the Jays in my area, but, that's been my experience with them is that they are not really serious, and they're just horn dogs, and they wanna do the least to get the most. They want to do the least to get the most, and, I mean, I've dealt with older ones, younger ones, not a big difference. So, I tend to avoid them. I do better with, like, conservative Catholic guys, um, but, try it out, girl. See how it go see how it goes. But for me, I'm not saying that like, if one approach was like, "Oh, I really wanna take you out," and they were willing to take me where I wanna go, I would probably go, probably. But if I have a limited amount of time and there are, you know, a Persian, a Catholic conservative guy, and a J, I'm gonna prioritize in order the Catholic guy first, then the Persian guy, and lastly the J. So it's like out shopping at upscale places. Well, are they sales women? Are they sales women? I don't know. That's a very weird dynamic that women are being inappropriate and you're on a date. I mean, because it should be obvious that you're on a date and that's like the guy that you're with. And so, women should not be being inappropriate. So if they're upscale places, go even more upscale. Go where the old people be. Okay, go where the senior citizens go. Go to the resorts. Go to the golf clubs. Go to the um private clubs. Go to the where the old people be. Okay? Don't go where the young little ratchet girls be, even if it's upscale. Go where the old people be. That they can't get in or they're not interested in going because they're like, "Oh, that's old and boring. I don't wanna go there." You take your man over there, okay? Where the women are, like I said, they care about their reputation and they're not trying to be inappropriate with someone's date. They're not trying to do that. Take your man over there or have him take you over there. Look up where the old rich people go and go over there. So that'll eliminate that out the gate. And then just yeah, if he's ignoring it, you ignore it too. Maybe maybe I'm trying to think. Yeah, no. I'm pretty self-absorbed, so I don't be knowing what people be doing around me sometimes. They could be flirting, I wouldn't even know. I'm so absorbed with myself and what I'm doing. I don't even be knowing what they doing. But yeah, take your man over there to where the old people be and the real upscale places that's laid back where a bunch of old people be and then just focus on what you're doing. Just focus on your date. Don't worry about what other people are doing. I can see how that's annoying though. Uh, oh my gosh. She says, I've been on dates where women were highly inappropriate with my boyfriend at times. It was so weird that I felt bad for them. Wow. Girl, I don't I don't ever really have to experience this. Um yeah, I don't really have to experience this. So I don't have any direct experience with people being inappropriate with my date. I know sometimes I've gone out with my date and I feel like they're just doing the most. Like they'll be tipping the bartender or tipping like the bottle girl. And if the bottle girl starts getting more money than me, I start getting angry. Like, hey, Listen, she's pouring you a drink. I'm doing way more than that. So let's keep everything in perspective, because if you keep tipping her the way you are, you about to give me double. You about to give me double, whatever that is. That is annoying. But I didn't feel like the bottle girl was being inappropriate, or the waitress or the bartender is being inappropriate. They're just doing their job, pouring drinks, bringing bottles, whatever, whatever. But the guy trying to be Mr. Do 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 and just, making it rain and stuff. And I'm like, that's fine, but don't act crazy when I hold my hand out for some money. Don't be like, "Oh, well, I don't have it." No, you can tip the bottle girl. You can give me way more. She ain't doing nothing but pouring a glass of champagne. That is not hard work. I have to sit up here and entertain you, sit up straight, look cute, be engaging, be poised, be elegant, da 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 da, walking these hills. I'm doing way more work than she is. She coming out here pouring you a glass of champagne. That's the only time I've gotten irritated, but that has not been because the girl was being inappropriate. So, you know. Uh, Mia Moore says, remind the wait staff that they are in fact staff. Like, thanks for your service tonight, Jessica. Yeah, that's a good one. I've heard people say stuff like that too. And you know what? As far as being really polite and um just kind of addressing people in a very polite way, like where they are, that has helped me not get hit on by Dusties. I really don't get hit on by Dusties. Honestly, I don't. And it's partially, I think, because the way I carry myself, and I think it's because the way I look at them and smile, like, thanks, for your service, or, like, I really appreciate you, or like, ask them to do something, like, where's the this or the that? Like, I don't know what it is, but whatever energy I'm giving off, it Dusties do not hit on me. They barely even look. Like, they look a little bit like, "Oh, but they don't even think like, I'm about to get the courage to ask her out. I'm about to get the courage to ask her for her number, or I'm about to get the courage to say something inappropriate to her." Like, I mean, I can go to the auto place, I can go to the grocery store. I just have this energy like, I am here to use these services, or I'm here to, because like, acknowledging that they're there working, like, not in a I'm about to be mean to you way, but in a very much so like, I'm a patron here and you are a service provider, and having that energy. And when you have that energy, they do not hit on you. They don't hit on you. And when you look a certain way, they don't hit on you. They already know you're not an option. So, yeah, I think that same energy that you could have with the women wait staff is the same that you can have with the guys. That will help prevent Dusties from hitting on you. Try it. It should work. Because I know in another live that I did, maybe, oh yeah, the one we did when we were talking about the whole Kiki Palmer situation, there was a woman on there that was saying that she keeps getting hit on by Dusties. And then part of it's being in the dusty environments, but like, if you're at a restaurant and somebody's there, like a bouncer or a bartender or a waiter or a ballet or whatever it is that they're doing there, I literally don't get hit on by Dusty. Like, I just don't. I don't get hit on by Dusties. It's been a long I can't tell you the last time I got hit on by Dusty. I can't remember. I cannot remember when is the last time. Yeah, I don't remember. So, um so yeah, try those out. Come back, let us know what you think. So, does any other ladies have any questions or comments or thoughts around creating your guidelines, requirements, and standards? Especially for our ladies who are creating them from scratch. Because, of course, knowing what you don't want will help kind of propel you into what it is that you do want. And kind of evaluating where things have gone wrong will help you think about what it is that you do want. How many dates would you have to go out with someone before you would feel comfortable with them knowing where you live? I'll do another video. I'll do a standalone video about vetting. I have one, I think, already, or at least maybe we've talked about it in passing, but we can talk about that vetting separately. We can go into more detail about that because I do believe you can vet. Some people say you cannot vet these guys, but you can. You absolutely can vet them. You can vet them. So, some of that requirement might be like your vetting process. Like once they have, completed, once you have really engaged with them in the vetting process. Some women require a real phone number and not a burner number from a guy. So that's something to keep in mind. Because once you have the real phone number, you can really start doing your research and your vetting. Um, yeah. So maybe you're saying, well, before I would ever let them know where I live, I would have to vet them. That's my requirement. And the amount of time that it takes to vet them, it varies. It depends on how quickly you can collect information. Because it's always better to vet in a way that they don't know you're vetting them. So to just casually collect information, they're going to be talking about where they went to college, where they lived. Um, they're going to be talking about their jobs. They're going to be talking about their family, where they grew up, where they were born. You're just going to be taking mental note of all of these things because you can go behind and vet them and research and see who they are. They say what they say. Is it true? Is it true? So maybe before they get your phone number or maybe before they find out where you live, they go through your vetting process. You take them through your vetting process. And before you go to their house, there might be a certain amount of dates that you go on before you would be willing to go to their house, or maybe just a certain level in the relationship before you would feel comfortable going over there. Maybe you require STD testing. That's to your discretion before you will feel fine moving forward with them intimately. Maybe if they have kids, you require a man to be involved with his kid's life for you to even consider dating him. Because of course, if he's a deadbeat dad for his original kids, if you have kids, then he might be a deadbeat to your kids. Oh, child, I'm speaking from experience. Guidelines. I forgot my thought about that. But yeah, those are some requirements to consider. Um, before you do monogamy, what would be all of your requirements to justify monogamy? Because monogamy, you are before you're married. I mean, just like exclusively dating. Let's say exclusively dating. Exclusively dating means you are excluding a lot of opportunities from yourself, right? Like you are excluding a lot of it. You are excluding a lot of opportunities. So it has to be worth your while. The biggest underlying belief that you need to understand as a woman is that The exclusivity is he's getting more out of it than you are. So exclusivity isn't something that you're chasing and that you're trying to force him to do, or like the coveted thing, like, oh, I really want him to, commit to me, commit, exclusivity. He should be wanting you to settle down and be exclusive with him. It really should be reversed, because if he's going to be monopolizing all your time, that's like you're not going on fabulous dates with someone else, you're not getting money from like 10 men, you're just relying on one. Um Now, I always say exclusivity with an asterisk mark, because you're really not all the way exclusive until you sign the marriage papers, the marriage license, then you're exclusive. So, but you're like semi exclusive when you say you're exclusive, because you're going to be devoting a lot more time to this one guy. So, what all would you need for that to take place? Would you need engagement to be imminent? Would you need him to definitely want marriage? Would you need a certain allowance? Would you need um just what would you need? What would you need, especially monetarily or resource wise, time wise? What would you require? What is the role of exclusive man? That means if you're my exclusive man, that means that you are paying for the majority of my bills. That means that you're taking care of my car. That means you're my emergency contact. That means if something breaks in my house, I can call you. That means that, you know, you've met my parents and they approve of you. That means, have a list of requirements of what it takes. So it's not just like, oh, you know, Sheila, you're cute. Be my girlfriend. Okay, Johnny, sure. And you don't really have anything to show for it. Like, we are too grown at our big age to be, kikiing and cackling over some guy wanting us to be exclusive with them. Our age is too big. It's just too big. It has to be more. Otherwise, why should I, like, think about it. If your dating life is really lucrative and it's really vibrant and it's really experiential and it's really fabulous, why should you give it up for one man? That man better be offering you something amazing. What is he offering you to make you stop dating to make you stop dating? Now, this is with a grain of salt, because you're never going to tell him that you're dating a lot of people, because men are too fragile to hear that explicitly. They are way too fragile to hear that. So, but you have to allude to that. Of course, the fact that you are free agent to date whomever is in the air. It's in the air. It's in the atmosphere. Of course, everybody knows the unspoken thing that you can do whatever you want. But when they want to try to tie you down into a relationship, why should you stop? What's in it for you? What do you require for your exclusivity? What do you require for your commitment? Because your commitment is very valuable. It's very valuable. So what do you require? Um, Moving over to standards, one thing that you can look at is also their family structure, and also like their family history of mental health. This is, I think, becoming increasingly important. Um, I get a lot of uh domestic violence and you know, women getting taken off the planet. Those stories all the time cross my desk, and a lot of times these guys they're evil, and in addition to being evil, they have mental imbalance. A lot of them are bipolar. Lots and lots of them are bipolar, schizophrenic, and everything else. So look at the family history of mental health. The only way that you can really do that is by taking your time. Don't jump into anything. Take your time. Try to listen between the lines of how they interact with their families. Were they abandoned by their mom? Are they adopted? Are they, you know, daddy abandoned? What is the issue? What is the whole thing? Because also, if you decide to have children, those people are going to be your in-laws, and those people are going to be your kids' grandkids. Pardon me, your kids' grandparents. Who are these people? You need to know. You need to know before you go down that road of having children with this person. Who are the aunties? How are his siblings? What is his relationship with his siblings? What is his relationship with his parents? Are they around? Do they want grandchildren? Because it's a lot of work having children. And it's always easier when you have two sides of the family that are willing to contribute to the well being of the children, not just your side. Or if maybe you don't have a side. Maybe your family, maybe you've, cut them off or whatever because they're dysfunctional. So now you're relying on his family. Well, God forbid they're dysfunctional. Well, now you don't have any help. You need some help. You need a community. You need a village. So look at the family structure. Look at the history of mental health um, before determining. Let that be a requirement. I know for me, it's definitely a preference. I prefer someone who comes from a functional family that gets along with his parents. His parents are still married, gets along with his siblings, and they actually want nieces and nephews. And his parents, they want grandkids or they want a step grandchild. That's a the step grandchild is a requirement, and some of the other things are preferences. So you can kind of rank what's most important because maybe you might be willing to give a little on other things, but maybe some things are absolutely required. And sometimes even just writing them down and knowing which direction you're going into helps you manifest and bring forth to yourself what it is that you do want, because you've explicitly stated it to the universe, like, these are the things I want. I want a man from a from a functional family that had, I want a man who has grown up seeing men provide for women, growing up seeing a man, him growing up with men being men, taking care of the family, protecting the family, taking care of women and children, not running from responsibility, but rising to the occasion of responsibility, being accountable, being leaders. Because when a man has come up in an environment like that, it's less work for you because so many more things are just going to flow into place because they are his nature. They are his rearing. They were ingrained into him philosophically, ingrained into him. So you're not going to be fighting over who brings what to the table. He's going to already know, I'm a man. This is what I do. This is what men do. So there's so much that's eliminated from, you know, some petty stuff because it's just, he already knows what his role is, and you can slide in there with your role as a woman. And it just can work a lot easier. Then I mean, of course, you have all of the, you know, intricacies and challenges of just being in a relationship. But one thing that you're not going to be fighting over is the role of a man. Okay. That will be eliminated from the list of arguments because he already gonna know what he has to do. He's already gonna know that. Oh yeah, she says it's better when the mom was a stay-at-home wife. I had met this stingy Indian, and his mom was a stay-at-home wife, and his dad, I think his dad was an engineer or something. Um, Engineer or a doctor, I don't remember. But his mom never worked, and his mom didn't want her daughter-in-law to work. So like his ex-wife, he didn't want the mama, his mom didn't want her daughter-in-law, his ex-wife, to work. He wanted the ex-wife to work. And he used to give her a hard time about not making enough money, and like he was just dusty and I don't know why. I don't know why he was as dusty as he is. I think a lot of them get over here to the America and they just act a fool. And the divorce rate in India is really low, but these women know that they don't have to take that stuff here in the United States. They'll divorce them. Like, you'll meet a lot of divorced Indian guys, and once you deal with them, you know exactly why the lady divorced them, because they are a mess. But yeah, so that's the one exception to the rule that I have noticed, that guy's mom was a stay-at-home wife, and she did not want her daughter-in-law working. She was like, "Oh no, let her focus on the kids, let her focus on this and that, let her take care of the house." And he was like, "No, I want my wife to work." Uh, they go full feminist when they get here. The men, yeah, they do. Like, child, I can't really take them serious. I really can't take them serious at all. I cannot. Well, maybe we'll do a part two to this, because maybe other things might come to my mind. I've given up on having an organized thought pattern around this topic because it is not coming out. Maybe if I go back and listen to this brain dump of sorts, this was a bit of a brain dump. Maybe if I go back and listen to it, I might be able to organize it, but I'm not making no guarantees. But what we could do, if there are like more questions in the comments, because sometimes ladies leave questions, like really, really good ones in the comments, after the video is posted, maybe there could be a part two. And we can do as many installments as we need. We can do as many installments as we need, because I know that many of us need concrete guideline, like we need concrete um, pathway to creating these guidelines and standards. And I think that we need questions to prompt our mind to start developing them. Because just saying that you need boundaries and standards for women who were not reared to have them, and your mom never taught you what to expect from a man, or if you witnessed her, in Dustville, like many of us did, it's a tall order to be like, "Oh, you need boundaries and standards." Like, what are those and how do I make them? Um, so it's a good conversation to have, to really get down into the weeds and really sort everything out, and at least have some framework to create them. Now, the other important aspect of all of this is to implement and try. You have to implement these things to get a feel for it. You can't just be having your boundaries and standards at home, not doing anything. You know, you have to actually get out there and start looking for your requirements. If you're going to be online dating, set up your filters that reflect your standards and your requirements. Set up your filters to reflect your standards and your requirements. And I would just say, based on my standards, something like Tinder is not even an option for me. It's just not an option. I don't find any quality people on there, on Tinder. So, based on my time, it just doesn't make sense to be on Tinder. But hey, each demographic is different. In my city, it's trash. Okay? In my city, Tinder is trash. Um, but if you're online dating, then set up your standards and your requirements with your filters to reflect those. And then if you're out meeting people in person, go to the places in the areas of town that would be reflective of your standards. That's going to be the beginning of the situation so that you can start engaging with men with in implementing these standards and requirements and looking at them and evaluating them and you know bowing out. You don't need any big explanation. You don't have to explain yourself as to why this or that. It's just thank you or no thank you, or yes or no. No is a complete sentence. You don't owe anyone any explanations about your standards. You don't have to argue about your standards. I have a video called Do Not Argue About Your Standards. And I mean that. I will reiterate that right now. Do not argue about your standards. Do not try to strong arm anybody about your standards. Do not try to shove your standards down anybody's throat. Your standards are just there. If they meet them, then they do. If they don't, they don't. Move on. Don't be in the comment sections of these bandits going back and forth about your standards and what you deserve and what you expect. Communicate them, and if the right man who can meet them will respond. Like the example I gave you with the date. So if someone's like, "Hey, yeah, we should meet up sometime. You're really cute. I'll be at this happy hour downtown on da 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 street at from 5 to 7. You should come through." Oh, thank you for the invitation, but I prefer. Okay, that's my favorite phrase, y'all. I prefer a first date to be one on one, but thanks for the invitation. There you go. That's it. You communicated your standard, you were polite, and you declined the happy hour invitation all in one sentence. You see what I mean? So you don't have to, oh, who do you think you are inviting me to a happy hour? I don't do happy hours. I'm better than that. I like to go to a five-star restaurant. No, you don't need to do all that. You no 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 no. You don't need to do all that. You can dial it back and just keep it real cute and real simple, like I just said. Oh yeah, I really like you. You're really cute. Yeah. Would you like to grab a cup of coffee sometime? Oh, thanks so much for the invitation. I drink my coffee only at 6 a.m. And that's really early for a date, don't you think? Oh, well, yeah, yeah, but what else would you want to do? Well, I'm totally open to lunch or brunch sometime. There you go. He either going to invite you to lunch or he's not. But you communicated your standard. You communicated your requirement very politely and very, very femininely. Either he's going to respond or he's not. There you go. So do not argue about your standards. And you don't have to be negative about them. Block and delete also works as well if a block is warranted. A block works too. You don't have to explain, you don't have to and that's another thing that I saw in those dusty groups that these women argue a lot with dusties, like dusties and dustettas. They argue a lot with one another. They are literally a match made in hell. They just argue with one another where these dustettas are, these guys, maybe they're sleazy, right? Online, like, oh, like, come over to my house. Oh, why are you inviting me to your house so soon? Well, I want to cuddle. I'm just here for sex. Oh, who you think you are? Da 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 da. I can't believe you. Da da, and they'll just go on, and these dustettas will write a dissertation, okay, to these dusties, and they don't even care. And it's like, ma'am, conserve your feminine energy. If someone is inviting you to their home, you redirect them and they insist, block and delete. There you go. That is the answer because you are exerting energy arguing with someone who don't even care. Does not even care. And in fact, I would argue that a lot of these dusties are gathering energy from your arguing. Makes them feel important, makes them feel seen and heard. And they're probably going online picking fights with dustettas all over the city, all over the country, because they know that they can bait dustetta into an argument. They know that they can lure her in into an argument, and they get off either way. If you come to their house, they get off. If you don't and you argue with them online, they still get off. It's still similar energy, still attention. And they don't care. They'll get attention any way they can get it. So, um, don't argue with your standards. Learn how to communicate your standards in a positive and feminine manner and hold the line and be patient. Because as you continue to level up, your standards will increase, your requirements may increase, your guidelines will change as you learn what works for you, what doesn't, right? You'll have a whole system, and stick to your system because it helps you weed through people a lot faster. You create your filters, create your system. I do this and then I chat and then I move over to my, my internet VoIP phone, and then I talk on there, and then I have my one or two dates, then I give out my number and da 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 da. Have a process. And hopefully it doesn't sound too formulated, because it's really not. There's a lot of room for spontaneity. There is room for fun. There is room for adventure. Definitely. Having a process doesn't eliminate adventure and fun. It just keeps you focused so that you don't find yourself like, oh my God, how did this dusty end up in my bed? Listen, these guidelines and these standards, is gonna prevent that. You're not going to get so caught up and so in the moment that you lose focus of what this whole level up journey is all about. They will keep you focused and keep you on track. Make sure that you have the proper filters and barriers and roadblocks and, some distances, some space in between suitors and your heart. Should be effort to get there. It should be effort and investment to get to your heart, the prize, the true prize. This will keep you from excessive heartbreak. This will keep you from being in a relationship with someone who doesn't like you. I think I'll do a video about that. I will do a story time about a passport bro that I dated that really, I feel like I've dated a couple guys that don't like black women. And and it was just it was a very interesting dynamic. I'll do a story time about the I'll do a story time about those. One of them was a passport bro. And another one was a high school. Well, it's actually two guys that I dated in high school that did not like black women. They did not. And I didn't realize that until like recently. Well, I mean, I kind of knew then, but I just didn't have the language to really, in the framework to really analyze exactly what was going on. Like they just didn't like black women. And they also don't like being black either. But anywho, um, this will protect you from being with people that don't like you. This will put you with people who do like you and who do cherish you and who would be willing to put in energy, effort, money, time, planning, okay? Because I'm telling you, when a man likes you, he will literally plan the next week, make reservations for the week and a half in advance, okay? Start making preparations for you, in advance because he will see you as a priority. He will see you as a priority and he will see, you know, it will be his mission to impress you. Will be his mission to impress you, and to treat you well, and to show you a good time. So all you need to do is show up being absolutely fabulous. Okay, be fabulous. Not just physically, but just all the things, all the things, all the beautiful things about you. Let them just shine. Just be you. Just be your amazing self. That's really all you need to do. Be your amazing self. Let him show you a good time. Okay? Yes. Mia Moore says the process prolongs the fun. It stretches it out honestly so you are not bored. Exactly. Precisely. You don't want to just jump into like, oh, he's cute. We go together. Like, don't skip the steps. Don't skip the steps. Slow it down and go through your process. And it's gonna feed so many birds with one seed. Just going through the process. Um, it protects you, it helps you have fun. There's still room for adventure, there's still room for spontaneity. It helps you weed out time wasters, it helps you weed out people who really don't like you, people who don't cherish you to where you're not really their dream girl. It helps you eliminate people who would use you as a placeholder, those kinds of things. When you have standards, expectations, requirements, and we have guidelines. I'm too sleepy to tell it right now, selfish love. I'm gonna have to come back and tell y'all another day about the passport, the passport, bro. Child. Speaking of mental health, I'll let you. Don't let me forget about it, sis. Don't let me forget about it, and I will do a standalone story time about that. All right, beautiful ladies. Thank y'all so much for liking the video. Thank you for tuning in. If you have not yet subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Why you not subscribed? Subscribe, girl. You know you want to. I really appreciate y'all. And we will talk soon. And all right, have a great night or day. Bye.